Hey everyone, welcome back to another Fall Obsession podcast episode. My name is Sam Thrash, and I am your show host over here at Fall Obsession. This week, we are getting the Flatland Deer Country crew back together. Myself, our Western Staff Coordinator Tim Berges, and one of our show producers Mike Teepee. We all reconvene to finish the story, if you will. If you guys have been listening to recent episodes, specifically podcast 166 and 167, you will have heard the story from our Flatland Deer Country saga and adventure that we had out there in eastern Colorado. Um, I was super privileged to be able to kill my very first mule deer buck, spot-and-stalk with a bow on top of that, in the flat farmland of eastern Colorado. That's the story that's told in episode 166. And then we busted our butts and worked really hard to try and get Mike on a whitetail in the same environment, in the same country, and had a bunch of challenges that came with that, and that's the story 167. We recorded those two podcast episodes in Colorado in deer camp as the hunt was going on. And the first episode, 166, it covers days 1 through 3, and then 167 covers days 4 through 6. But there was a seventh day after that last podcast that left that story unfinished. And a big part of that story was the grand finale, Tim being able to put down a monster muley on opening day of rifle season. So I got the group back together so that we can finish that story and complete the adventure for you guys. So hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Unlike the other ones, it is not in person. This one is a virtual podcast. I love the in-person ones better, but it was still good to get on here and hang out with the guys again and get to reminisce a little bit over an awesome hunting trip and an awesome week that we all got to spend together. So on top of that, I'll also plug real quick that we have the video for this hunt released at this point in time on our YouTube channel. It is titled Flatland Deer Country, a Fall Obsession film. It's about a little over a half hour long, so one of our longer productions, but it is a complete story of everything that happened out there, as much as we were able to tell it given the footage and the pieces that we have. So if you guys, it's one of our, in my opinion, my humble opinion, it's one of our better productions from a standpoint of filming to the end game at the end. Sure, there's always stuff that we could have done better or differently from a production standpoint. You live and learn with these things, especially when you're self-filming or filming for your buddies, but it's an awesome story. It came together in an awesome video. And if you guys haven't watched Flatland Deer Country yet on YouTube, please go do so. So before we get to the episode, though, I got to plug the partners and the folks that work with us here at Fall Obsession to help make our podcast possible and to make sure that you guys get a new episode every single week. The first one is Hoot Camo, and if you are watching this podcast video on YouTube, you will notice that I am wearing a Hoot Camo t-shirt right here. This is their Buho pattern. Hoot is made down here in Texas. They are a Texas-based company. They design their own gear. They design their own patterns. But don't let it fool you. They're not trying to stick to Texas. They are applicable everywhere, if you will. They make products that work in a multitude of environments. I have worn this exact pattern I'm wearing right now in Texas this year, in Colorado on this flatland deer hunt that I keep talking about, and the gear held up absolutely outstanding. So, and we actually, Mike and I, during this podcast, actually talk about it briefly, about the quality of gear that Hoot makes. So if you are a blue-collar hunter and you are wanting to get into a new set of high-quality camouflage, you need to check out Hoot Camo. They are dedicated to making gear that is on par with the industry leaders as far as quality, but is at a price point that the blue-collar guys like you and me can afford. And if you go to their website and check out their prices, you will quickly realize that they are very affordable for somebody wanting to get into, again, a good quality set of camouflage. So head on over to their website, hootcamo.com, and if you want to place an order, the code FALLOBSESSION15 will give you guys a discount at checkout. checkout. So go check out Hoot Camo today. Our next partner for the podcast is Ridge Rock Hunt Company, Derek and Lacey over there in Mississippi. They book hunts with vetted outfitters across the country. So if you're looking to book that next adventure, that next hunting trip, and you want to go somewhere different, try something new, maybe check one off the bucket list, give Derek a call. He'll work with you on all the details, timeline, licensing, pricing, location, what you're going to hunt, all that good stuff, and he will set you up with something that he himself will be willing to hunt with, or a trip that he'd be willing to go on himself. So Derek Eves at Ridge Rock, he's the man. Go give him a call and check out Ridge Rock Hunt Company on Facebook and their website. Our other partner is the Outdoor Call Radio app, Outdoors Dan from Respect the Game TV. He has created an app for hunters and outdoorsmen that you can download on any device, where you can stream hunting shows and podcasts on a loop every single day. You'll catch Fall Obsession podcast on that loop every Monday, the same day as our new publications, as well as tons of other hunting shows and podcasts that you all know and love. So go download the Outdoor Call Radio app today and start streaming, and go follow Outdoors Dan on social media as well. He does a couple of different live broadcasts, live radio shows at different points during the week in local Midwest radio stations. But if you're not local to one of those stations, you can catch his live broadcasts on Wednesdays and Saturdays on his Facebook Live as well. So the Outdoor Call Radio app and Outdoors Dan, go check them out. Last thing I'm going to say is, if you guys are interested in partnering with Fall Obsession and maybe advertising your own hunting or outdoor brand in this sponsor segment on our podcast, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to talk to you. Go to fallobsession.com/podcast. That's where you guys can find a form that will put you in touch with myself and our production team, and we can talk the details, we can talk numbers, and what you guys can expect to see advertising through our show on both your normal everyday streaming apps and what we're getting right now from Carbon TV. So if you're interested in working with us, fallobsession.com/podcast is where you need to go. That's all from me in this sponsor segment. We're going to head over to the episode now. I hope you guys enjoy this conversation I have with Tim and Mike. I will also preface it and just let you guys know we do have a couple of segments during the episode, some brief moments where you might hear some children in the background. We're hunters, we're show producers, we have our podcast, but we're also husbands and fathers as well. So every once in a while, you might hear a kid in the background. Sorry about that, but those are the lives we live. Needless to say, hope you guys enjoy. You are listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
Oh, you got her, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
The Flatland Crew is back together for another Fall Obsession podcast episode. What's happening, everybody? I'm Sam, your show host. Joining me is our Fall Obsession Western Staff Coordinator, Tim Berges. Welcome back, Tim.
Yep, good to be back.
And one of our show producers out there in Michigan, producer of our Midwest Mindset series on Carbon TV, Mike Teepee, back on the podcast. Welcome back, Mike.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. So, a little bit different setting than the last time we recorded some podcasts together. And I'll have to say I thoroughly enjoy the in-person podcasts a lot better than these virtual ones, but we're making the most out of it. And the reason we're hopping back on here is because it wasn't the last two episodes, it was a few weeks ago now, episodes 66 and 67, titled Flatland Mule Deer and then followed by Flatland Whitetail, recapped our hunting trip we all got to experience together up there in Colorado at the invitation of Tim and your family. But when we recorded the second one, the hunting wasn't done yet. We still had 1 day to follow that in the trip, and I only got to experience half of that day. The uneventful half, of course, is how it would work out. But wanted to get back on here with you guys so that we can talk about the third and final piece of this story, if you will, the grand finale, if you will, revolving around Tim and a buck that you were able to put on the ground, Tim, that seventh evening of the hunt. But I want to talk about that, and then obviously reflect the trip a little bit with you guys here, and just kind of reminisce on what was an incredible hunt. So, but Tim, I'm going to turn it over to you a little bit, and just if you want to give our listeners a quick backstory real quick on day 7, and what you were looking at as far as muleys out there that you had your eye on for opening day of rifle.
Yeah, so we, day 6, if you guys will all probably remember if you've heard any of our stuff, is the day we had the poacher craziness. And so we're pretty much committed to first light and a little beyond, trying to find that whitetail for Mike. And then we saw enough bucks that I really wasn't that worried about finding a mule deer. It was more kind of like finding the right one than it was finding a buck. So I committed the first hour-ish of like legal light to helping you guys with that. And then checked a bunch of spots on the way from that spot back to the house where I knew a couple were bigger bucks were located by the farmhouse. So yeah, we kind of just split up at that point. I checked the spots where we had seen a few on the way back, didn't find them. And then the buck we keep seeing at the Forky and that bigger buck we kept seeing at the feedlot, I bumped them just south where Sam shot his buck on that South CRP actually, and got in front of them, and then had to relocate them a couple times. And you guys, I called you at that point. You had kind of given up on finding that whitetail, to make a plan to go make a stock, like not really a stock, but kind of just relocate them again, try to push them out of the trees they were in and see where they went. And everything went really well with that, except for the big buck just kind of vanished.
Yeah, we bumped deer, but we didn't bump the one you were looking for.
Yeah, we bumped the Forky. We bumped like 7 or 9 or whatever does it was with them. They all kind of split in different directions. But every deer was accounted for except for him. So he either laid down in that CRP and said, screw it, or he snuck out sooner, which I'm guessing he probably didn't stop when the rest of them did. I'm guessing he just kept winning, which is fine. That was like 10-ish, 10:30, wasn't it, at that point? If I remember right.
It was somewhere in there, I think, because we were still giving it. We were kind of throwing everything we had at him at that point. I feel like after all that went down and everything, and I think Mike, when because we were trying to split up a little bit and just cover more ground and again try to locate that buck. And I know you and I went, Tim, we went one way in one truck and sent Mike the opposite way in the other truck. And Mike, if I remember right, you almost had a deer run underneath your tire.
Yeah, that little forked buck, he come just shooting out of those cedars, and I literally had to slam on the brakes on the truck there because I dang near took him out. I mean, that was so unexpected. I had no idea that he would just dart out of there, and not only that, but dart out on my side of the cedars. I was hoping he'd dart out on your guys' side. But yeah, that was definitely that was intense there for a couple seconds.
Not what you expect.
No.
So we're trying to relocate this buck for you, Tim, but I don't know. It's kind of dwindling down. I know we threw everything we had, like I said, at kind of those last couple hours when y'all had me, as far as because I had to leave around. I think I set kind of noonish.
Like a noon cut, hard noon cut, and like at that point I was like, well, we'll go walk these 2 other spots where he probably went, and of course he didn't go to either of them. We scared one doe out of the 2 of them, and so at that point I was like, well, let's get you packed up and on the road. And then went back to the house, got you packed up and gone. Mike, you went out back hunting pretty quick, if I remember right. Like maybe even before Sam left,
I think I went back out right around the time that Sam, I said goodbye, and he was finishing packing the truck.
Yeah. So before we get into Tim, like leading into the afternoon, though, I want to turn over to you too, Mike, because we left off, and if people listen to 66 and 67, they know that obviously, as Tim already mentioned, there's the issue with the poacher that we were dealing with on day 6. And then if you watch the Flatland video, the whole hunt video that we just put out, you see a segment toward the end of you giving some commentary at the beginning of day 7, talking about just some pressure that we felt like we were under because we knew we weren't hunting that whitetail alone. So talk about kind of in the other truck, because Tim was trying to help us just being another set of eyes in another area for that whitetail, but then he peeled off eventually to hunt muleys. What was it like on the whitetail grind morning number 7?
Oh, it was super, super stressful. The pressure was immense. We, like I said in the video, against my better judgment, Tim elected to help us there for that first hour of daylight. Ended up working out just fine for Tim. I felt like maybe Tim should go after some of those nice mule deer he had located. But I appreciated greatly that he was willing to give up that first hour of daylight to help me try and locate that stud whitetail. It became apparent very quickly. Sam, you rode with me, and we went and, like we said, we split up with Tim, and we tried to relocate that joker between where he was at the night before when we left him at dark and where we bumped him. We all felt pretty confident he was going to probably head back home. Just wasn't sure if he was going to make it back in daylight or not.
Yeah.
And we just I don't know. None of us really know. I don't know how many hours I put looking through the binoculars, looking for that deer on that 7th and final day, but could not find him. And like I said, right after first light, it became apparent that we were not the only ones hunting this deer. We felt pretty confident that white truck would be back in there hunting him. Sure enough, he was there hunting him. And then there was a black truck that kind of seemed like he was running with the white truck, and that he was looking for it too. I mean, I'm kind of speculating at that, but just the way they kept, we kept seeing those two together.
Yeah, and that was the thing. We saw the white truck pretty early. The suspected, we know he was a poacher from the day before. And we saw him pretty quick. We noticed the black pickup, and at first we didn't really think anything of it just because it's opening day of rifle. And Tim, you had kind of told us, hey, at some point we're going to see other people out here. It's going to happen, And then we, from there, we began noticing, it became apparent that we didn't think the white truck got spotlighted that buck that night, or that he had any early morning success, because he was kind of driving like he was scrambling too, trying to locate something. But to your point, it began as the morning progressed, and we saw him here and there and everywhere. Wherever he was, that black truck was always within a mile of him, and it was very suspicious, I guess you could say. He might have had a buddy helping him. So
yeah, we put a lot of effort in trying to locate that deer that day. Like when you left to go back home, that's what I went and just started. I left probably 2-3 hours before 10, and I just started walking all the CRP patches that I could. And so that's what I did for the majority of the beginning of that day, and throughout the day was just go after that deer as hard as I could.
Yeah. It was no joke. It was the same grind, but the day 6 grind, we've already talked about how it felt different. It didn't feel like normal hunting because of everything we were dealing with the poacher. But then day 7, at least the part I was a part of, it was just, I don't know, there was that added stress, and I don't know if I've ever even felt that before. And I wasn't the one hunting, but it felt like we were just rushed, and it wasn't a good feeling, Nobody wants to feel like that when you're trying to be out there deer hunting or anything like that. So
yeah, no, I agree. It was definitely not a good feeling at all. I felt like if we didn't find that deer in the first 30 minutes of daylight, we probably weren't going to find him. Yeah. It was either somebody else was going to shoot him or he was long gone. And who knows what happened with that big joker. All I know is I hope he's still alive for us maybe to have a chance at in the future.
Yeah. No, we have no reason to believe that, at least while we were out there hunting, that anybody else took him. But obviously, it's a lot of ground. There's no telling what could have happened. So, but hope for the best, I guess. Well, I want to, at this point, I'm leaving. I'm out of the picture. I'm driving back to Texas. So it's just you two guys out there. So y'all take us into what the afternoon and leading into the evening held. Because as we alluded to in the beginning, Tim was able to put the grand finale and the fireworks show on there at the very end of this trip. So
Yeah, you can go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. So, like I said, right when you were leaving, Sam, is when I left, and I was feeling the pressure, and so I left 2-3 hours before Tim did for the evening hunt, and I was just putting boots on the ground, trying to see if I could flush that big buck out of some potential CRP that was in that area. Ended up falling short on that. Didn't end up seeing anything while I was doing that. Fast forward, it was about 3 p.m. Got dark. Oh, what was it getting dark? Like 4:30, 5 o'clock, something like that.
Yeah, I would say sundown was like at the 4:20s, 4:30s, and then
Yeah, so dark.
legal
right?
light was ending like 5-ish.
yeah.
Yeah, legal light was like right around 5, I think. But you and I met up not far from where we had located that big buck, about 3 o'clock, I would say. And we were trying to come up with a game plan for both of us. Actually didn't run into. We were just standing there chatting, looking at our phones, coming up with ideas, bouncing ideas off each other. And that's when the local game warden stopped in to chat it up with us a little bit there. And you had some experience with this guy in the past, correct?
Yeah, he's been our game warden for 4 or 5 years now. He's one of the better ones we've had, at least out of the last 2 or 3 he's probably the best of them. So yeah, we talked to him a bit, told him what happened the day before, because I had texted him and called him and annoyed him. So kind of filled him in. He checked us, did the whole check the license, have a great day. Got done with that. And then we split up again, and you kind of just, drove around, and I kind of just drove around him. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of went in desperation once again, looking for that deer.
Yeah, and the range that you're covering too is just it's broad because, and again, I know we've talked about this previously, but Tim would be educating us through the whole week on how these deer act, how far these deer can travel, And I don't we say, yeah, okay, but I don't think we truly understood until day 6 when we watched 3 bucks travel 5 miles in one day, with plenty of time standing still, plenty of time bedding, plenty of time, hanging out, doing whatever they wanted. So I bring that up to say that whole 5-mile range from where we saw them the night before to where they called home and anywhere else around there was in play. That was huntable ground as far as, the area they could be in. So it was a needle in a haystack pursuit for you, no doubt.
Yeah, it was. And that's why I told Tim, I said, hey, I'm just going to, that was the only whitetails we had located. It wasn't like we had another pocket, 20 miles away, 5 miles away in a different direction that I could go try and make a play on. So I felt like all my eggs were in that basket. Yeah. So I told Tim, I said, well, I'm just going to have to just keep going around and around and around here where, we've seen them come and go over the last 2 days, 3 days. And then Tim started heading for where he had some encounters with some mule deer. And then Tim gives me a call, fast forward through the night, and I get a call from Tim about 25 to 30 minutes before quitting time. And why don't you start us off there, Tim, with how that went?
Yeah, so I ditched you around 3:15, 3:30, whatever it was, and then Headed back more towards the farmhouse just because it's usually I know the area better. So I was like, I'm going to go where I know. And we saw that one guy this morning. So I was like, well, we'll go there. And the other ones I hadn't found were the spots I was going to check where the other two big ones we had seen were on the way. So I checked all those, got back, didn't find anything, and then just drove around a while, make a turn to go south on a road. And then there's a bunch of like mostly dead trees right up against the road, like single file trees, like I don't know what they are, but not like evergreens, but like some kind of oak or something. But yeah, mostly dead. And so then like this tree row just explodes. I mean, like I count, so I'm like, okay, there's a bunch of deer. So I pull off and get off, and it's a spot I can hunt. So I get out of the truck, like just get off legally off the road, get the rifle, get the two sticks up, take my time, and deer are just running. And I'm counting. I get to 52 deer in this whole stretch. And there might have been more than that because I think I missed a couple, but it was at least in the, at least 52. But so first buck runs by, and they kind of do this thing where they run from the southwest to the northeast, and then they're kind of like looping back around farther away. And so like I range where they're like looping back, and it's like 340, and I like was looking at that, trying to get on this one buck that was up there, which we ended up seeing him later that night. And I thought he was bigger than the one I shot, but he was actually smaller. So it kind of worked out in the end. But, so I was trying to get on him farther away and, just really looking it out. And then this other guy jumps up, and it looks like they're right next to each other. So I just put my reticle right on him and squeeze off. And I'm shooting like I'm at 340 when really he was at like 180, 170. So I hit him dead in the spine, just drop him right there. And all the other deer kind of just like hang around him and like don't move a whole lot. So I reload, then I re-range him, and I'm like, oh, that's the problem. And so his back legs are totally out of commission. His front legs are not are sort of working at this point, but not really. He's like trying to get up, but he doesn't have anything in the back to stand on. So it's just kind of not going so hot. So I call you real quick, and I'm like, hey, this is where I'm at. Come give me a hand. I'm going to need it as soon as I get him shot again. So I take some time. He's kind of turned straight away from me at this point, and he's trying to like hop up. So he's slowly making the quarter turn I need him to make to be broadside. As soon as he does a bump, lays down, put it right through the double lung, drop him perfectly on the second shot. Lights out like in 10 seconds. He just rolls over and donezo. So get the truck, drive out there, and waiting for Mike. And then all the deer kind of just like filter to this next field. And so I'm just waiting. And then you pull up, we get them loaded and get rolling. And it's like pretty close to last light, or might even be last light at this point. Like, so we're just like, let's get home. At this point, we're like, let's just get home. And we want to get to the processor before they close. So I'd called my grandma while I was waiting for you and had her call the processor, let them know we're going to be on our way. So we didn't get a whole lot of pictures or anything because it was kind of like, let's get this done. And it was, so we got back to the house, took like 5 pictures, grabbed my grandparents, got in the truck, ran to the processor, got him, ended up getting him caped out and everything by them because they do all that. They're awesome processor where they don't even want him gutted. They'll take him whole. And so I didn't even gut him, nothing. Just put the tag on him, dropped him off, got him out of the truck, dragged him out of the door. The guys took over from there, and we double checked the cape got done right, and then got out of there, and then I got back to the house and got Mike on the road, and then I ended up staying until about lunchtime or a little after Saturday to finish up some projects and clean up some stuff we left out. And
I want to stop you for a second, Tim, and what happened on the way home from the processor?
Oh yeah. We're on the state line because the processor is Nebraska. Had just got back onto the state line from Nebraska. And one whitetail doe almost takes our truck out, like runs. And then like, there's at least 2 more on one side of the road and at least 1 more on the other side. We're like, What the heck is this?
Like how far? I mean, this wasn't necessarily the area that we were focusing a lot of time on, because this was south of the farmhouse. But dude, this was how close to where? I mean, this was right in the hub where we'd been hunting.
Yeah, it would have been like 3 mile, about between 2 and 3 miles south of the house and just a little bit east. And like it was the section south of like where we had our draw that we hunted like crazy for them because they're usually there. So yeah, it's like we would have been driving the road on the north side of this, like where they were, and like maybe a quarter mile from where they were, probably 10 times every day or more. God. So it wasn't like we hadn't looked here.
Dude, I was so frustrated because I'm like, are you serious? So there was another pocket of whitetail. We just hadn't located them.
Yeah, I almost wonder if they were crossing back over from Nebraska and they had been in Nebraska the whole time. So
they knew when the hunt was over.
Them, they were coming off of Colorado going to Nebraska.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, they knew when it was over.
Dude, that was so frustrating. And don't get me wrong, all we saw was does. But dude, if you got that time of year, if you got a pocket of, I think I counted 5 does if I remember right. If you got a pocket of 5 does, there's probably a pretty good chance you got a buck with them.
Or you're gonna have one soon. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
we could have just kept eyes on them if we would have been able to locate this little doe family group and just kept eyes on them, waited for something to move in potentially while we were there.
Yeah.
It's funny y'all bring that up because, granted, the trip and everything, things unfolded the way they were meant to be. As far as when my deer came into play, Tim, you didn't even mention, Tim, that this is also the mule deer you kill is also the best muley you've ever shot. So that's also
to be determined. Yeah, it's. I think it's going to be close. I know you guys keep saying it's not. I think it's going to be close. I think you will maybe edge him out. He's 4x4 with 1 brow tine. He doesn't have a ton of mass, but he's definitely my widest one. That's for sure.
He's super wide.
He's super wide. So that's why I think he's going to be in the conversation. My other one has pretty good mass. My other big one has pretty good mass, and he's a 5x4 with double brow ties that are both with 2 brow ties that are both pretty good size. So I think it's going to be closer than you guys think it do. I don't think he beats him by much, but we'll see.
Yeah,
my money's on him being bigger.
I would second that for sure, but we'll to be determined as well. You'll have to let us know when you finally get a chance to tape him out. But I think it's funny though, because obviously, like I mentioned, everything was meant to be the way it was. But we started the whole trip, as we mentioned in previous episodes, with snow on the ground and just struggling to see deer, period, at all out there. And you can't help but wonder, you take that weather event, that winter weather event that we started the trip with, and you push it forward a week. You make that happen a week before we hunted. What kind of difference would we have seen? Because again, day 1 through 3, I think we mentioned in the video, the buck I killed was like my 3rd or 4th deer to even lay eyes on, me personally, that trip.
Is your 4th? Yeah, your 4th.
My 4th deer to lay eyes on in 3 days. But last day, when you killed yours, you're talking about flushing a pocket of 50 of them, and that's the contrast that weather, brought with it. So.
Yeah, and I had seen probably just Friday, I probably saw 110.
Yeah, I believe it.
So I'd see a pocket of 7, a pocket of 5. Maybe not quite. Yeah, probably about 110 pockets here and there, and mostly all does. And then like that, like that first pocket had 2 bucks, or one of the other pockets had 2 bucks. But yeah, just lots of pockets of does all over the place.
Well, I mean, honestly, from day 4 through day 7, we saw exceptional numbers of mule deer. Even when we weren't even looking for mule deer and we were looking for whitetail, we saw quite a few deer those last 3 to 4 days.
Yeah.
So like you said, the weather just completely screwed the first 2 days. I mean, the first 2 days were a complete wash.
Yeah.
And even day 3 was it was very eventful, but yet not from necessarily seeing lots of deer, but eventful in the fact that you were able to kill a deer. I mean, It only takes one. You just need the right one. But yeah, it was crazy as the week went on. Like you said, we got warmer temperatures. The snow started to melt, and like every day, it just seemed like to increase. Boom, more deer, more deer, more deer, more deer, all the way up until when we left. And like you said, it's hard saying if we would have stuck around 1, 2, 3 more days, or if the weather would have shifted different, like you said, who knows? Man, it might have been totally. Still to have a great hunt like we did, but it might have been just an entirely different feel to the hunt.
Yeah. I think the weather was super helpful for Sam, though, because it definitely kept him holding longer and staying still and everything. Whereas I don't know, like if it had been just like been in the 60s, like it can be in December out there, I don't know if that guy would have hung out for that long in that spot when Sam stalked in. I'm pretty sure he would have been moving much sooner than the 2 hours it took.
Yeah, I mean, there's no telling on that. It just, I the biggest thing that I think made that stalk possible was the wind. And doesn't matter what kind of weather or temps you have or anything like that for that, to possibly hold that deer there longer. If we hadn't had the wind that we had and hadn't have played the wind the right way, I would have never gotten a shot at that buck. That wind covered my noise, it covered my movement, I'm already trying to minimize both, as much as possible, obviously, but what little there was, the wind covered it, and obviously kept my scent from getting anywhere close to him until we were right in there. So, I mean, if y'all have heard the stories as listeners or anything, that I tried to get him to stand the first time, and he didn't even stand up. I don't know if he didn't hear me because of the wind or what, but he didn't even stand up the first time I tried. So,
no, those first 3 days were brutal from the wind. I mean, brutally cold, and windy, and that's coming from a guy here in the Midwest where I was out hunting tonight and it was 32 degrees out, but that was comfortable compared to what we had going on out there with the temps and the wind and how wide open that wind just gets howling out there. But yeah, like day 1 through 3 was super windy, but if you remember day 4, 5, 6, 7, the wind really died off. We've seen a lot more deer too, but the stalking conditions were definitely not like when I was trying to make those stalks in there on that whitetail buck. The conditions were nowhere near as good. A lot of that snow was starting to melt and then had frosted again. So it was super loud, super crunchy, didn't have the strong winds to cover up the noise like we had the previous days. So yeah, it was definitely meant to be with your deer for sure.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And yeah, I can't say enough about it, or I know y'all too, Tim, for the invite that I finally accepted coming out there, and then you guys toughing it out in the truck, holding your binos up for 2 hours, just watching this Texas boy try to crawl through the Colorado weeds. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I might have to do some more shoulder presses this year to be ready for that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
I'm definitely going to be investing in some better binos.
Yeah, that I mean, y'all were already poking fun at me and my Texas-sized bow hunting binoculars down here, and I got made fun of a couple weekends later on the veteran hunt for them as well. But yeah, that's going to be an investment coming up soon where I need some better optics. So.
Yeah, I mean, when you're ready, let me know, and I'll tell you you give me your budget, I'll tell you what to get. Because I sold them for about 6 months at Cabela's. Like, I know them well, so when you're ready, just shoot me a text.
Fair enough.
Other than that, what other gear do you feel like you needed that you didn't have, or other?
Y'all know the answer to this.
I haven't heard of any new boot sponsors, have you?
No,
not
but
yet.
Y'all giving me a hard time about the boots is going to be in the pheasant video. That's when the majority of that footage was shot. So maybe after we drop some pheasant hunting footage here next week or so, maybe we'll draw some people in. But yeah, the footwear, the boots are the first thing that I probably need better gear of, man. And like they're not bad, and the boots are not old. The the soles were just starting to wear off a little bit, like on the heels, kind of in the back. And I didn't want them to get to the point where I'm walking and they're just, flapping against my feet, which is why I put the tape on there, because I knew they were getting bad. And it wasn't until I got up there, I was like, because I noticed it down in Texas, I was like, oh, I need to fix these before I go to Colorado. And I forgot about it until I got up there. I was like, well, I got duct tape. I guess that's what I'm doing.
I mean, it lasted.
Yeah,
Hey,
do you super glue them yet?
Yeah, they've been fixed the correct way and are back in commission now down here. So haven't broken on me again. I haven't had to break the duct tape back out, but at the same time, I haven't been walking like I was walking up there either. So, but that would be the first thing I would say would be obviously the boots. I have to say that, right? I got to say that the boots were the first thing, but man, the hoot gear, I think it did a really good job as far as, I mean, granted, I wasn't trying to like push my limits with the gear in that I wasn't like, oh, let's see, just wearing this, let's see how cold I get. No, I wasn't about to play that game. So I had on a good base layer. I had on, my hoot fleece underneath it, and then my heavyweight hoot gear on top of that. And that kept me really warm. Just my face, my feet, and my hands, as far as gear on my person, that would have been the ticket for sure. I don't know. I need to do some better research probably on gloves if I'm going to do something like that again. I mean, my gloves did okay, but at the same time, we were in and out of the truck enough. I don't think I never sat, other than my 2-hour stalk, I was never out in the elements. I know, Mike, you had a couple of sits yourself where you were sitting out there still for a long time. So you might have some better insight on stuff like that, but yeah, I could use some better gloves if I went back and did it again.
Yeah, I would say optics for me, like not just the binoculars, but rangefinder. I'd like to even improve that too. I know I was getting frustrated. I was texting you guys on that second stalk through the wheat stubble. I couldn't get any ranges in that wheat stubble, and maybe every rangefinder will be like that. But I know mine's a little cheaper quality. I'm wondering if I got a better quality one, if I could have had some better ideas how close I was getting towards those deer, because I was getting really frustrated not having, actual yardages to know where I was at.
Yeah. Tim, you hunt out there all the time. What rangefinder do you think is works for that, or are we overthinking it, thinking we got to get a good quality one? Because I know when you're talking about trying to range stuff like Mike just pointed out in grass or in wheat, obviously those finer obstructions like that can mess with your rangefinder. What have you found to work best in your experience?
So mine, it used to be really good, but now it's just old. I have a Leupold TBR 1000. So it's like, it was their top of the line like 10 years ago, but now it's like, now it'd be like $100 used, if that. If you could find a new one, it might be $100. Like they're okay. It doesn't do the job good enough. My brother has a really nice Leica one. I forget if he has the 28 or the 3200. The RDF, their little one, not their binoculars. That thing is incredible. If you were going to upgrade, Leica, in my opinion, makes the best rangefinders. People may not agree with me, but definitely standalone rangefinders, they make the best. Rangefinding binos, I think theirs are the best. I have Swarovski binos for me, without a rangefinder in them, that are super awesome. So like, I think if either Swarovski, Zeiss, or Leica, if you're going to go with one of those, for binos would be great. Rangefinders, I would go, if you can jump into Leica, that's the way to go. If not, Leupold is a little bit cheaper. It's still like 400-ish probably for their new top of the line one. But once you buy it, like I said, mine's about 10 years old, and it was probably outdated after 6 years. To give you an idea, like I'm getting ranges on like deer and animals to about 550, 500, depending on conditions. Like good reflective rocks and stuff, I might get like 650, 700. But I'm not getting anything close to 1,000 it claims that you can. Even like cars sitting out there, like I might get 800 on a car. That's like obviously the most reflective surface you're ever going to see in the world. So, definitely something that out there, I that's my next optical upgrade. Probably my next upgrade for me is a rangefinder. It's not going to be this year, but that will be my next upgrade for me personally.
Gotcha. What else for you, Mike?
Oh, I think I'm pretty good on the boots. Obviously, we're set on the camo. Yeah, like you said, the only time that I did get cold was sitting for a while, and I didn't bring any hot hands, if I remember right. And I think if I would have had some hot hands, that would have kind of took the edge off. But I remember that one morning I watched that nice buck for quite a while off from a distance. Man, I just smoked. I was so frozen solid. I mean, just sitting in one spot for like, I probably sat for 2 to 3 hours, I would guess, just right there, not moving, not getting the blood flowing. And it was like once the hands got cold, it was like, man, my feet didn't really get cold, but my hands did. And it was after that, it just seemed like it just goes through your whole body. I mean, that hoot camo, the heavy outer jacket and the heavy pants did such a phenomenal job of blocking the wind and cutting the wind that it was like I was fine all day there in your core. But once your hands get cold or your feet, it's like, dude, you can only hold on for so long.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say I would need to look into some potential warmer gloves, and then just remind myself to make sure I have hot hands at all times when you're out there. Later in the week, day 6, 7, like you didn't need none of that stuff really. I mean, the temperatures had warmed up so much. It was mostly that first 3 to 4 days that was like brutally cold.
Yeah. I
think with wind chill, wasn't it like single digits or something? A couple of those days with wind chill.
I think early on it was in the teens, if not getting down to maybe 8 or 9 once or twice, at some point early. But it was pretty cool. I remember I was actually talking to my dad last night, and we were talking about just gear, and I think he was talking about a recent hunt where he got the blood flowing, walking or moving around, and it's cold outside, but he got warm, started sweating. And I'm like, well, that was a struggle for me up there, because it's 20, like the first stalk I had, I came back on when I tried to make a play on that little forky. I came back, and like inside I'm like pretty warm because I've been walking around the CRP, even though it's 20, 30, some odd degrees outside. I'm sweating underneath. So that was something, that at least hunting here in Texas, we don't experience that a whole lot. And I'm glad we had the hoot gear that was equipped for the temps. A couple weekends later, when I was in veteran camp, because of the rain, we couldn't drive pickup trucks down to the stand we were hunting. So we were driving an ATV, a 6-seater side by side, and no windshield. So it was cold driving in and driving out, and after dark and everything. And everybody's bundling up like Michelin men, to go ride. And I put on the same layers I wore in Colorado. That's what I did for my hoot gear. And everybody's looking at me like, "Are you gonna be warm enough?" It's like, "Yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be good." And they said, "Well, don't you want a warm jacket?" It's like, "This is my warm jacket. Like, this is the heavyweight stuff." That's the heavyweight. Like they were impressed with how low profile it was for a quote unquote heavyweight coat, I guess, is what they kept talking about. And then driving on that side by side, even with the no windshield and the wind blowing on you, my hands got cold, and that was it. The hoot gear withstood that wind phenomenal. So
I mean, talking about hoot gear, I mean, I don't want to get too far off track from this, this Colorado trip, but just a little shout out about hoot gear. Last night, hunting in Indiana, season ends January 7th here in Indiana. We're not quite where we want to be with the meat situation going in to the off season. And so I went on a hunt last night and had the hoot gear on, and I was able to I had 8 does at less than 50 yards, all 8 of them. And I was able to come to full draw and take out a nice doe at 33 yards with no cover, no wind. I mean, dead still, no wind last night at all. And even with that heavy outer garment on, was still able to come to full draw, settle in, not make too much noise. This time of year, they're on edge, man. If anybody's hunting late season deer, I don't care what state you're in, if they've been pressured for 3 months, they're on edge. And for me to be able to pull that off with that camo, and it's like you said, it's very tight to your body for an outer late season or just heavy jacket. And dude, I'm impressed, but I don't want to get too off track, but
Yeah. No, it did the job for sure. No doubt about that. Well, what else you guys got? Any Mike, I'll kick it to you first. Any final remarks about the trip or lessons learned, big conclusions, anything like that, as we begin to wrap up our story?
yeah, lessons learned. Don't question Tim.
I don't know about that one, but yeah, okay.
Well, until proven otherwise, don't question Tim. Be more open-minded when you're going to new territory. Don't be so basically closed-minded to what you've experienced. That really was a wedge for me the first few days out there. So yeah, I think I learned a lot from this trip. I feel like I've added some good friends in the two of you guys for the first time, actually, getting to spend a week. You spend 6-7 days like we did together all day, every day, sun up to sundown, well, past sundown.
Yeah.
But, 18 hours, 19 hours a day with 2 other guys that are like-minded. And, just what can I say except for wow. Extremely blessed to have the opportunity that Tim extended and the Berges family extended. Very honored and humbled to have been given that opportunity. And just, I hope I get a chance to go back sometime. Definitely got some revenge on mind. And that's not just for deer, that's for those darn pheasants that made me look bad. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of my takeaway. Just an absolute awesome, epic 7-day trip with you two. And I mean, I don't know, it was just awesome. I mean, I still smile every time I think about that trip and just the way it played out and the camaraderie that you guys, and Tim's family. Oh my gosh, his grandparents calling everybody they know as soon as you come back with a buck that's been shot with a bow, and they're like, you wouldn't believe what happened out here today. And you can hear them, and you're just laughing so hard inside because they're like, I know, I would have never thought. And Tim's grandma saying she would have bet the farm that you would have never gotten here with a bow. I mean, just great people, great hospitality. Tim's grandparents, top notch, absolute top notch. Couldn't ask for better people. He couldn't ask for better grandparents, and we couldn't ask for better camp hosts than what we received at all. I mean, mind blown, honestly.
Yeah. No, I second all that, man, and Tim for sure, man. We can't thank you and your family enough for all that, your grandparents enough for all that. I've hunted before with outfitters where you didn't get the kind of just warm welcome and hospitality that we got up there with them, and I don't know if you'll get that like we had it up there anywhere else, man. It was second to none in my opinion, and like as soon as you walk through the door, you feel like part of the family up there, and it was awesome. So yeah, can't thank you guys enough for everything you did.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I'm definitely very spoiled and lucky to have that that invite basically always, and it's just great. So
Yeah. What about you, Tim? You hunt out here every single year, for the most part. Sometimes different opportunities or different tags, however it shakes out for you. But what, if anything, was different about this year, or what did you take away from this year, this buck that you killed, anything like that that you hadn't before?
I thought the snow was gonna be a lot better for us. That was when I saw it, I really thought they're gonna hunger hard. But then they're going to get up and go to food a lot because they're going to need a lot of food to stay warm. And I figured they're going to sit there in the food all day, which just didn't happen. So they really threw off what I expected for the first couple days and everything. That was like the biggest learning thing for me. And then otherwise, just the weirdness of the whitetails out there. I told you guys a few times, they're definitely migratory. There's a river that's 20 miles away, right by the town where we went and bought Mike's license, that they'll go back and forth to in a 2 or 3 day stretch. Sometimes even almost same day, they'll do that whole journey. And so the whitetails are so weird and cyclical and hardly ever spend a lot of time somewhere there. So it was just weird that we didn't have any move through in that whole period. Yeah. Or if they did, we just never saw them. So, and it was also weird to me that that buck and his two little buddy bucks stayed in that one field for so long. I mean, obviously it was the perfect spot for them. So it's you guys kept saying this is the spot, whatever, but it was still super weird for me that they stayed there. And once we bumped them, I knew that Thursday, I was this is Mike's chance, because they're not going to be anywhere close to here tomorrow. I was so not surprised at all that they were nowhere to be found. I wouldn't be shocked if they went 5 more miles south overnight and would just into the next county or something. So that part really didn't shock me, but yeah.
Well, like Mike just said, we've learned not to question you. My Texas brain would be 5 miles, next county, no way. But I'm inclined to believe you now. So no, learned a lot for sure, and it was definitely an experience for me, just getting to witness the same animals that act completely different. And that was a huge educational piece for me. Like Mike said at the beginning, don't take a local's advice or input for granted, in an environment like that. But certainly, just getting to witness it for myself, and even through the some blown hunts or blown stalks, it's you learn about deer in a whole new environment, and that's, I don't know, you can't it's just a part of it you have to experience. You can't just read about it or watch a video about it. Being able to learn through experience, that's huge. And then for me, getting to actually have a successful spot and stalk, I know I've mentioned before how that was a dream, but all of my senses and everything that I've learned or studied about Western hunting and stuff, I feel like I was able to somewhat apply it in that, okay, I gotta play the wind, or I gotta get low, or I gotta do this at this point, or that, or I've heard about guys doing this, and I understand now this is why they do that. A bunch of stuff like that kind of came into play throughout those 2 hours for me, and a bunch of stuff like that was running through my mind, and being able to have all that come together for me and pay off, it gave me a good education of Western spot and stalk hunting. So, but. Well, guys, we can probably head for home to wrap up the podcast at least, unless you guys got anything else you want to add.
I think that's about it for me.
Yeah, yep, I'm good. Just like I said, just a big thank you to Tim and the Berges,
yes,
and also for Sam and everybody just having this platform and us being able to, make what I hope to be a lifelong friendship out of. Not just through fall obsession, but then through these hunts and getting to meet guys and it just, yeah, that's why I wanted to be a part of a family like this, because it truly is family.
Yeah, man. Yeah, everybody I've gotten to meet in person, it feels like you've known them forever. And yeah, we'll be sharing camp again. The three of us will for sure. So
yeah, this is number 2 for me and Sam. So
yeah,
it's been a while, but it's number 2.
Yeah, no, there will be another one for sure. But for our listeners,
say on that note, sorry, I got one thing. Then if we are looking for staff out west.
Yeah,
there's basically like 2 of us. So if you are living in the west and interested, let us know. We are planning a elk and mule deer hunt this fall in Colorado. So if you are on staff by then, we can definitely include you by that. Obviously, it's going to be a draw. So if you are going to be on staff, you need to put in quick so you can be on by the end of March. But definitely look at that opportunity. It's pretty awesome. I've been on staff almost 6 years now, and it's been great for that whole time.
Yeah. Now come join the team, come join the family. Fallobsession.com is our website, and that's where you guys can apply for that opportunity and learn more about what all's involved with that, and get in touch with Todd, our staff manager, through that site and everything, and he'll help get you squared away and set up wherever you might be. Don't have to be out west to join the team, but we certainly, if you are, we'd love to have you. And then I also, before we wrap up, I want to plug our Flatland Deer Country video, because we've now recorded 3 podcasts about this experience, but this last week we actually dropped the feature film that we put together and documented as much as we were able to get from this trip. So if you guys want to witness in video form everything that we've been talking about through 3 podcasts now, go to our YouTube channel. It should be right there on the front page as soon as you get there. Flatland Deer Country, a fall obsession film. And then if you want to hear about the days 1 through 3 and days 4 through 6, there's 2 podcast episodes, 166 and 167, that you can go listen to get all the details and the full story. So encourage you guys to go do that if you haven't already. For our listeners, thank you all for listening. Hit up all the socials, the YouTubes. Sounds like Tim is going to have to go here pretty soon. He's got got
kiddos in the bathtub.
Hey, that's how we roll over here on Fall Obsession Podcast. We kids and families, they come first. So every once in a while you'll hear one peeping into our episodes, and that's just how it goes. But hit up the socials. Be sure you hit subscribe, whatever platform you guys are listening on. Thanks for tuning in to another Fall Obsession podcast, and we're back again next week for another episode. I'll catch you guys then.